Good morning, everybody. Thought I'd come on and do another video for you today, and hopefully this is helpful information. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to type them out, and you can add them later as well, and I'll go and answer them on another video, or I'll answer you directly. Also, everyone's situation is individual, so you need to make a consultation or set up a consultation with an attorney to talk about your particular situation. So that being said, today I'm going to talk about child support. I've got my notes here because there's several things that I want to cover about child support. First of all, child support is set based on the person who's obligated to pay. They also sometimes are called the obligor. And then the person who's receiving child support, you will sometimes see called the obligee. So if I throw those terms out there, that's what that means. But the person who is paying child support, the amount that they are ordered to pay is based off of their income. Now, income, it's any income. So that can be wages from a 9-to-5 job. That can be bonuses. That can be rental income. Around here, because we have some more rural areas around here, there are sometimes people who work as a cowboy, and it's, from what I understand, I'm not an expert on this, but my understanding is that sometimes when people work as a cowboy or work on a ranch, then their housing is included as part of their income, or it's included as part of their employment package. And so therefore then if we're going in and calculating child support, the amount of that housing, what that would be, can be counted as income. So even if you're not actually getting a dollar amount for that, the court can go in and look at it and say, okay, well, your rent would be $300 a month, so we're going to increase your income by $300 a month because that's the value that you're getting for your employment. One of the things that a lot of people will come ask me about is they'll say, oh, well, I get a bonus at the end of the year, but it's not guaranteed. I don't know that I'm going to get it next year. Well, child support is calculated based off of what you have earned in the past. And so they're going to take, if you've got a paycheck, you come in with a paycheck, and that bonus is in there, that's going to get counted and it's going to get included because that's the best predictor we have of what's going to happen in the future. Now, if a situation has changed, excuse me, we've had some economic ups and downs. There have been people like, for example, in the oil and gas industry that had been through some downturns not that long ago. And so if your income has gone down and you can show the court that it is actually down now, not that, oh, well, there's just no guarantee I'm going to make that in the future. That's really not going to be good enough. You're going to have to show the court, here's why my income is down right now. Most of the thing, if it's an economic thing, courts are going to be aware of that, especially if you're in a child support court. That's all the judge hears all day long. They're going to know. And you have to be very careful of using that as an excuse and how you present it to the judge. So just know that if your income has actually gone down, you're going to need to provide some evidence to show that that's the case. If someone is not working, then child support, there is a presumption that if you're physically able to work, you can at least get a minimum wage job, at least 40 hours a week. And so the courts will use that number to calculate what the child support would be. From there, it's dependent on the number of children that you have. So if you have one child and you don't have any other children, so one child in the court case and no other kids, then that's 20% of your income. 2 kids without any other kids is 25%. Just to kind of give you an example of if you have outside kids, then that brings your percentage down a little bit. So if you have one child in the case and one other child, then, sorry, I was just seeing a comment from Diane. Hi, Diane, thank you for commenting. And yes, child support is a very important issue. The parent who's receiving it depends on that income to be able to pay their bills. So if you have one child in the case and one other child, then that percentage is brought down just a little bit. So rather than being 20%, it's 17.5%. And those percentages are all laid out in the family code. If there is an allegation that the person who's paying child support isn't working enough to the level that they could be working, or is choosing not to work in order to avoid paying child support, then that can be considered that person is voluntarily unemployed or underemployed. And so, just as an example, if you have someone who has, say they're a CPA and they have a professional degree and professional certifications, and so they could be making $100,000 a year, but they have decided that they're going to follow their dream and become an artist, and so they're only making $30,000 a year. The court could look at them and say, I'm very sorry, but you don't get to just follow your dream. You have children. You have the ability to make $100,000 a year. So we're going to set your child support based on $100,000 a year. And I have seen that happen in some cases. Something else to consider is if you have someone who is working under the table, or they're self-employed and they haven't filed taxes yet, or they don't file taxes, but they're self-employed, there is a resource that we can use and we can ask the court to use. So there is a survey that's done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a federal agency, and they put the survey results out, I believe, on a yearly basis, and they will indicate what the average person in a particular field makes in that metropolitan area. So here in Bryan-College Station, we are a metropolitan statistical area, and I can go to that chart and I can look at what does the average person that's in construction, what do they make? What does the average lawyer make? You can find that information there. What does the average waiter make? They list multiple different fields, and so what that can be is if I represent the person who's supposed to be receiving child support, and they don't know what the other person makes, but they know that, they've told them that they are working as a wait staff at Fridays here in Bryan-College Station, and then we can go to court and we can say, okay, well, Judge, this is the information that we have, and here's what the BLS says that this person should make in their income, and so we want you to set the child support based on that. So that is a resource that we can use and that I've used in the past. In other videos, I've talked about possession, and so there can be times whenever there's a 50-50 possession or a split possession order where most common is that one parent will have the child for a week and then the other parent will have the child for the week, and they flip-flop that way. If you do that, how does that affect child support? Most of the time, there's two ways you can do it. Most of the time, what they do is you calculate the child support that one parent would pay to the other parent, and then what the second parent would pay, and then you offset whatever the difference would be. So if one parent would pay $600 a month, the other parent would pay $800 a month, then the one that would pay $800 pays $200 to the other parent. And the reason you do that is they've got different incomes. They may have different numbers of children outside of the case. And so it's not necessarily all equal. There are some cases where people will just reach an agreement and they'll say, okay, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to have any child support go between the parties. Something to keep in mind if you do have an order like that is who's going to be responsible for daycare, extracurricular activities, additional things that come up. Typically, if someone's receiving child support, then that's their responsibility to cover those things. And so if you're doing a 50-50 split, you need to be thinking about, okay, if Junior is going to be in baseball, who's going to pay for the baseball fees and things like that. So think through those things whenever you're looking at an order. The Attorney General's office does have a calculator online that if you are curious what your child support would be, or if you want to get an idea, the math is accurate. So the good thing is with child support, it's pretty much purely math. So the math is accurate. Now, if you input something incorrectly, or you're not sure how to input something, you could possibly get a wrong number. But for the most part, that's going to be an accurate amount of what your child support would be. So you can find that calculator online, and it should be fairly accurate. One thing to note is that with the tax changes that went into effect on January 1st, that made a difference in taxable income. And so I just printed out a new chart that, so I've got the updated information, but that I'm not certain how quickly they update those online calculators, so that is something to be aware of. Generally, what I'm seeing is that it actually creates more taxable income, and so that makes the child support a little bit higher. So that's something to be aware of. Now, briefly, I'm going to go into health insurance because it really ties in pretty quickly with child support. So health insurance in an order, one of the parents is going to be ordered to provide the health insurance. There is kind of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a priority system. So in the family code, if the person who's paying child support has health insurance, then they kind of get first dibs to carry the health insurance. Then if they don't have it and the person that's receiving child support has it, then they can say, okay, I want to carry it. And then if neither one of them has it, then it's a straight cash medical support situation. I'll explain what that means in just a minute. So if the person who's paying child support carries the health insurance, then they would get a credit against their income for what it cost them to carry the health insurance just for the children in the case. So when I'm meeting with clients, I ask them to bring in the statement from their HR department that will show how much it is for an employee, and spouse, employee, and family, and that's usually how it's broken down. And then I calculate out what that is to just for the kids. So you get a credit against your income for what it costs you to carry it just for the children. If the person who's receiving child support is the one that's carrying the insurance, then they'd be entitled to get paid back for the cost of the insurance, the monthly premium. So again, we need to see that breakdown and then figure out how much that amount is. And then on top of the child support, the person that's paying child support will be ordered to pay an additional amount to provide the health insurance, or to pay for the health insurance. And then if neither one of them has health insurance available to them, then it's a straight cash medical support, where we figure up, based on the person who's paying child support, figure up what the family code says is that it can be up to 9% of their gross income. And so we figure out what that number is, and that's what they pay. So it's really better usually to find health insurance. You can also go out and buy a policy and use that number. So if either one of them doesn't have it and one person says, okay, well, I'm just going to go buy a policy on the open market, and that's going to be the policy that I provide. Now, the important thing to know is that court order is going to require that whichever one is ordered to continue to carry the health insurance. And if they drop the policy, then they are responsible for all of the medical bills that are not covered. So typically the language says that anything not covered is split 50-50. But if, say, I'm ordered to carry insurance and I either don't get it or I had a policy and then I dropped it, then if there's any medical bills that come up, they're all on me and I have to pay them all. So anyway, that's a little bit of information about child support and then also health insurance that kind of goes hand in hand with it. I hope that that's informative and helpful, and I appreciate the people that stopped by and watched. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And if you'd like to set up a consult, feel free to give me a call or shoot me a message here on Facebook. Y'all have a great Wednesday. Thanks.